This is unbelievable, you guys. Unbelievable. This is crazy what we found. I'm literally shaking right now. So earlier today, as many of you stopped in, you saw that we'd covered Alice in Wonderland syndrome, a syndrome in which everything seems small to you. These are episodes. We then linked that back in to melatonin release. Melatonin release as a result of your pineal gland perceiving darkness through your optic nerves. And this melatonin release directly affected the parietal lobe in the back of your brain, which affects your depth perception. And I just made probably one of the most amazing discoveries that I think I've made to this point. This is all the Holy Spirit. I take no credit for this. Do you guys remember when I told you about milk and honey? Milk being the serotonin, honey being the melatonin, and that this dance that occurs within your pineal gland regulates your circadian rhythm. In other words, it regulates your wakefulness and your sleepiness. We go through this, our lives going through this cycle. Melatonin, serotonin. And I told you guys that this was the land of milk and honey. Many of you have heard me say that over and over again. Well, now we have an amazing new discovery in the book of Numbers 13. I'm going to start reading. The Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. These are the Israelites that would form the descendants of Jesus Christ himself. These are the descendants of Jesus Christ himself. He was actually from the tribe of Judah, but there was a supporting tribes that helped defend the Israelites against the giants, against the Canaanites. So there were men sent from each tribe to go out into the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. Got a bird visiting us out here. These are their names. They give us 12 names, 12 men, one from each tribe. These are the men that Moses sent out to explore the land. Moses gave Hoshua, son of Nun, the name Joshua. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through Negev and into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or is it bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there any trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. I believe that even though this really happened, I believe it is also symbolic. It was the season for the first ripe grapes. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because if you look at the rods and cones microscope, of the eye, we get what looks like bunches of grapes. Now, follow me on this because this is simply fascinating. This is the cross section. Well, actually, this is not a cross section. This is the actual makeup of your retina here. I've done some videos on this. Now, it's not just that because these are purple. It's also because they look like clusters of grapes. And when you cut these off, they form the honeycomb matrix. And I'm starting to wonder if this land that they went to go see was in fact like the land of the evil eye. Now watch, this gets better. Here are the rods and cones. When you cross-section these, it looks like a honeycomb matrix, but under here, we have what looks like clusters of grapes. So he's asking, what is in the land? So he went up and explored. They went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rahab toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through Negev and came to Hebron. They went to all these places where the descendants of Anak lived. Anak was the giants, tribe of giants. Hebron had been built 7 years before, Zoan in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. I believe that these were the grapes inside the eye of evil. They went into the eye of evil. Eshcol in the Hebrew language means cluster. But it says here, it also means resume, a region of a flowering plant's anatomy. And that's what this is. This is a resume. This is what the Hebrew word eshkol means. And I am in shock because this looks like clusters of grapes on the eshkol. They are in the eye of evil. Now let's continue on with this because it gets even more profound. 2 of them carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. The pole is the narrow gate, the hyaloid canal. This is simply fascinating. This is the hyaloid canal. Now imagine this. Here is the pole. Here is the pole. The grapes are all surrounding the pole in the retinal wall, which is this. Are you guys starting to see this picture? This is amazing. This is the pole with the grapes. Now let's continue on with this because it gets even better. Some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, oh my God, they returned from exploring the land. That's the 40 weeks of gestation of the child. That's the 40 years that the Israelites were in the wilderness. The 40 days that Jesus was in the wilderness and the 40 days and 40 nights of the flood. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community. They reported to them the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. And this is the dance of the serotonin and the melatonin. And why did God put this story in the Bible? Because he wants you to know who created your body. The master of the universe. This is proof there is a God because no one could have known the anatomy that is just described here when the book of Numbers was written. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites live in the hill country. And the Canaanites live near the sea along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. Right? The eyes of good and evil, the 2 bloodlines. They are too powerful. They control us. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. The Exodus. That's why the Israelites had to come out of Egypt, the land of evil. All the people we saw there are of great size, and this is where it gets crazy. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Alice in Wonderland syndrome, where things seem far away. As they looked at each other, they seemed far away. The land of milk and honey is the melatonin that we just discovered this morning that is causes or is the precursor to Alice in Wonderland syndrome as you lay down to go to sleep. And it affects your parietal lobe. And we made that connection this morning. And now this is confirming it. So this story contains all of the elements of the eye, the light coming in, the light shutting off, darkening, the light shutting off, darkening, the cluster of grapes in the land of evil, causing the melatonin after the light is shut off from the optic pathway, causing the melatonin to release in the pineal, which then goes up to the parietal lobe and causes you to seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes for certain ones of us. And these were the ones who saw each other as grasshoppers from the 12 tribes of Israel. Wow, guys, I'm blown away. I can't even tell you how excited I am. This is the rods and cones. Here are the grapes. This lines your eye. Here. This is the pole that they brought the grapes in on, the hyaloid canal, the narrow gate. And the 40 days that they took them to explore the land is the 40 years of the Israelites after they went through the Red Sea, parted the Red Sea. And the 40 days and 40 nights that Jesus went through the wilderness. This is the wilderness. And the 40 days and 40 nights of the flood on the ark. The ark. The flood, the vitreous humor. And the 40 weeks of gestation of a human child in the womb. Born into sin through the iris of time. And it's all right here, you guys. And I knew in my heart that this was all true. And this is just simply more confirmation, you guys. Simply more confirmation. The land of milk and honey is the pineal dance between melatonin and serotonin. And he wanted all of you to know this story so that you could believe in the true God who was able to describe the dance of serotonin and melatonin in your pineal gland, causing your circadian rhythm and wakefulness and sleepiness, a very complex chemical cycle described in the book of Numbers, the land of milk and honey, the cluster of grapes in the inner eye, and how the melatonin release puts you to sleep and causes you to see each other as grasshoppers. Wow. The giants representing the eye of evil, and the Israelites representing the true seed of God. And that being the enmity that we've been trying to tell you guys about since months ago. That this is the central theme of the Bible. The enmity between the seeds. And now that we're all mixed up together, we have to let the wheat grow with the tares until the fruit is revealed. And we demonstrated that in the story of Solomon. And we found out what the story of Solomon really means. That the two prostitutes represented many fathers, unknown fathers, right? And that they bore children. And we did not know the nature of the children. We did not know the nature of the wheat and the tare until the compassionate one came forward and said, take the baby. I'd rather have the baby be alive than cut it in two. And that is the real truth of the story of Solomon and the wisdom of Solomon. And God has given us eyes to see, and this is simply amazing, you guys. And I'm just really humbled right now. So this is the resume. This is the word eshkol, which means cluster in Hebrew, because we didn't get that visual before, so we're following this up. And this looks like the rods and cones carried on so this, what you're looking at here is the eye. You're looking at the hyaloid canal. Here is the pole, hyaloid canal. Here, oh God, this is amazing. Here are all of these rods and cones facing in, pointing in. All along this wall is what is here, okay? All along the wall. And then behind it is these grape-like structures, which are down here. So now we have the complete picture. And that's why they called it the Valley of Eshkol, which means cluster or grapes. And also means resame, as it states right here. Eshkol is resame, right out of the book of Numbers. And so we are looking at the inner eye right here. There's no mistaking this. Rods and cones pointing in, great clusters pointing out, all being carried on the pole, the hyaloid canal. Remember, the Israelites were traveling with the ark. Here's the Ark of the Covenant. They were gone for 40 days in the Canaanite land. They were also in the wilderness for 40 years. When the lights go off, everything turns dark, releases the honey, which is the melatonin. You go to sleep and you see each other as grasshoppers. It's all right here in the book of Numbers. I don't think anyone's ever broke this down in this fashion before. No one was doing studies on chemical relationship in the brain of sleepfulness and wakefulness when the book of Numbers was written. This was one of the very first books of the Bible.